Having surpassed 1,000 completed anime, it's time to review my old favorites and find out what holds up. I'm Sacrabolic, your envoy of hope, and this is Anime Favorite Search. ChäoS Head is about a teenage boy who lives in a shipping container and seemingly has some sort of psychosis because he's constantly having delusions, which are really just hallucinations he's having of usually perverted things, but sometimes they're violent, sometimes there's more than that, and he also has a feeling that someone is constantly watching him. So I think he basically just has schizophrenia, but I'm not a psychologist. He ends up getting linked online the image of a kill done by a local serial killer, but the kill hasn't happened yet, and when he ends up in the same area where the kill is supposed to happen to check it out, he ends up encountering the murder as it's happening. But when he goes to school, he finds out that the murderer is one of his fellow classmates, but also that he has apparently been friends with this girl for literal years, and there are pictures of him hanging out with her, and he has absolutely no idea who she is. The central crux of the plot eventually evolves into the concept that thoughts are basically electrical signals in the brain, and ChäoS Head explores the concept of what if these electrical signals were capable of being broadcast out of people's brains, and what if these electrical signals were capable of being interfered with by outside forces. And in this specific show, there is a company called Nozomi that is trying to do just that, interfere with the thought processes of people's brains and essentially mind control the world. And the main villain wants to, I think, create a world of peace, but he does it by, attacking Tokyo and causing huge earthquakes. So take that how you will. ChäoS Head is the first of the science adventure series, and I didn't actually watch this when it was coming out. I watched it about a year later because what got me into this was an AMV called, I want to say, Delusions, which I was never the biggest fan of that AMV, but it was the perfect length to do a 3-minute plank set to, so I ended up watching it basically every day for years. Even outside of that, though, I really only watched ChäoS Head once, but I remember absolutely loving it and being enthralled by it. And because I enjoyed ChäoS Head so much, I actually noticed when Steins Gate was starting to air that it had the same semicolon in its title, and it actually convinced me to start watching Steins Gate while it was airing, which was a pretty good decision at the time. Now, I would later find out that they were in the same series, and that's why they share the same semicolon. So you might think, is ChäoS Head an anime that just sort of aged poorly and was really popular in its day? And the answer is no. I was always, back in the day, in the minority of people who enjoyed it. And I guess it's not too surprising that going back, I didn't enjoy it nearly as much. I have heard that the visual novel is actually really good, possibly even better than Steins Gate, and the anime just isn't that great of an adaptation. And considering that there's only 12 episodes in Steins Gate, I 24, 26 like that, and most of the other science adventure series do, I will have to probably say that I think a big issue with ChäoS Head going into my rewatch of this is that it didn't have a lot of time to cook, in that it feels very rushed, and one of my major complaints with it is that the characters feel very shallow. They serve their point in the story, and they all have a major fear associated with them that the villain can exploit, and they all have their past traumas, but their characters are very one note. They specifically have personalities designed just to fill their one specific place in the storyline, and they have nothing outside of that, even the main character. I have to imagine that in the original visual novel, these characters were way better fleshed out, and I would have loved to see that, but the major issue I have with ChäoS Head in this rewatch is that I couldn't find myself engaged or interested in any of the characters. The other major thing about ChäoS Head, and what I think probably enthralled me so much the first time, is the sort of psychological thriller aspect to it. The show always keeps you guessing because you're never sure if you're inside of a sort of psychotic break or not. You're not sure if what the story is occurring in Delusions. You can't trust what you're seeing, what's happening, what the characters are saying to the main character. And it does help that most of the cast has been tortured and is absolutely insane because that's what gives them psychic powers in the first place. So it creates this whole mystery angle wrapped in a psychotic bow. Now, you might think, oh, then one of your problems has to be once the mystery is solved, it didn't live up to it in the rewatch. But the thing is, I watched ChäoS Head so long ago that I forgot most of what happened. So it was basically like a fresh rewatch. I was also going like, I have no idea what is happening, but I'm on board for this. And I have to say, for about the first 5 or so episodes, I was definitely enthralled in the psychological mystery aspect, and I was enjoying it. I wasn't loving it, but I was enjoying it. And then I think the show tips its hands a little bit too far when they start talking about interfering with brain signals and electrical interference in brain signals controlling thoughts, and then we start seeing the Nozomi backpacks, because at that point I figured out the plot, and then also at that point it felt like the story was starting to drag, because it was basically the characters needed to catch up with me, who'd already solved the mystery like 5 episodes in, and then also the characters need to have fight scenes, which I probably used to think were exciting and now think are just kind of boring. So I will say that ChäoS Head seems to have a really interesting foundation, but it seems to be very undercooked. I don't think they had a lot of faith in this. And from what I have looked up, just to make sure that ChäoS Head was indeed the first science adventure story, I realized that this anime came out like the same year as the game. So yeah, they fucking slammed this shit out. They got that out so quick, and I think it was definitely to ChäoS Head's detriment. I would have loved to see more of an exploration of the characters. I would have loved to see a more of a slow burn on the mystery aspects, and I would have just loved to see it get explored better. Because what's happening in this is it goes so fast, and it just leaves you sort of feeling empty and wanting more. Twitch and Discord in the description. I've been Sacrobolic, your envoy of hope. Bye-bye.